Welcome to the Suzanne and Sarah Real Estate Investing Podcast, where strategy meets hustle and your real estate goals turn into reality. Where Suzanne and Sarah, investors, agents, and your go to team for smart strategies, honest insights, and plenty of laughs along the way. Whether you're flipping, renting, or just starting out, we're here to help you invest smarter and live better. So let's dive in because the best time to invest is now. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Suzanne and Sarah Real Estate Investing Podcast. We have a packed episode today, as usual. There's never a dull week in real estate, and we're going to cover some major ups and downs, what's new. We did some creative financing conversations this week that we'll fill you in on, a little reality check for some first-time home buyers we've been shopping with that maybe might not be the best feelings. They're feeling the squeeze in this market. Some deals falling apart, some deals coming together, and just challenges of a winter February in Central Oregon and what we're doing about it, right? What we're doing to stay positive and move forward. So let's get into it.
So I just want to start by acknowledging that I'm in a different place. I am not sitting next to Sarah on our cozy green couch in the office. And Sarah's actually not in the office today either, and we'll talk about why. I am sitting in my mobile office in Baja, Mexico, which is my home away from winter in Central Oregon. If you're wondering where I am, I'm in a camper, man, and I've got a Starlink over there that is helping me connect to all of you. If any of you are interested in how to work abroad as a realtor, you know who to ask. And it doesn't have to be fancy. I could put on a background here and you would never know where I am, but Sarah encouraged me to be more transparent. So here you have it, my fancy camper in Baja.
Yeah, that's one of the beauties of a few things, right? One, the fact that we do this for a living. And like you said, I'm not sitting in the office today either, right? We can theoretically work from anywhere and make our jobs work from anywhere with a little bit of help and good communication. And we're also doing a podcast. We didn't have to tell you guys this, but if you want to tune in over a video, I told Suzanne she was going to have to explain it anyways if people are watching, right? So WTF with a fake background, you might as well have the good stuff and tell people what's really going on and encourage more people to find more freedom in their lives through real estate investing. That's why we're here.
Absolutely. Yes. Sarah, let's talk about some market and business updates. I think we've got, like you said, deals coming together, deals falling apart. And the theme for today's podcast is finishing the last 5%. And for any of you out there that have ever done a flip or really anything in life, the last 5% takes so much time. It's the stuff you don't want to do. And I would say that is the primary reason that our deal fell apart. Let's talk about that one.
Yeah, gosh, I love that, Suzanne. I see that across the board and so many different things going on right now, right? The way you do anything is the way you do everything, they say. We were chatting last week on our podcast. At the time, we had our fingers up. We're like, the deal's still together right now. But this particular deal did end up falling apart at the last minute. And really, what happened was all of a sudden, when everything was going peachy keen with the seller, he was saying, hey, I'll do everything. When we finally submitted what was on paper, him to do everything, the tone changed. And there was all of a sudden a partner with additional opinions involved who we hadn't heard from or about yet. Don't know if that's reality or not. And so our buyers were already on the fence enough, I think. They were definitely willing to give everybody a chance to do their jobs. But what ended up happening was the people who said they were going to do their jobs didn't actually follow through in that last 5%. Regardless of that, we feel like maybe we got the short end of the stick and our buyers got the short end of the stick. But I think the seller and the seller's agents are winning here. What do you think, Suzanne?
Because they got our inspection report that our buyers
Right.
paid for, because they know everything that's wrong with it. And now they know what their last 5% is, that they did not finish when the seller completed the remodel or flip of this property. He didn't do the last 5%, but because our buyers shared the full inspection report as part of their repair addendum, the seller now has that. It will help the next buyer. So if there's anyone out there that wants a riverfront home in Three Rivers that has been completely redone, and he's going to do everything on the inspection report now, but not for our buyers, like, why? Help me understand why. Then we have a good deal for you, and we know how to work with these folks. But I also want to tell part of the story here that I think is really interesting too, because last weekend, we actually just got a straight termination from this seller's agent. It was just like, all right, we're not going to do this. Let's terminate. And I was like, we've come this far. Why don't you at least put together a seller's repair addendum and tell us what you will do? Again, here's the last 5%. Give it a shot. We have nothing to lose. If it terminates anyways, why not at least spend a few minutes putting together what you are willing to do? So they did. And it was helpful for our buyers to see something in writing rather than all of this verbal back and forth. It was really helpful. And it gave them some relief too of just knowing, like, here's where the seller stands. It's in writing. And for them, that was clear enough to be like, okay, we now have a clear decision. We know what he's willing to do, and we're not comfortable moving forward. But they felt more comfortable by seeing it on paper. So the last 5% is so important for so many reasons.
Agreed.
What do you want to say about
The
it?
sellers and the seller's agent learn their lesson through experience and going through it at this time at a loss to our buyers, at a loss to us, just in terms of time and some money. But I think I've already said this before, but I guess I'll say it again. The seller could have avoided this by having some better guidance from the get-go and maybe working with agents who could have advised on buttoning up that last 5% from the get-go. So when you do get qualified and committed buyers on the line, that you're not having to go through this. You can actually probably close because all of these issues won't be at the surface. You won't be dealing with the problems in real time. So anyways, all good. This is just part of what we do. Does it get easier? Yes. Is it always hard? Yes. But it's just part of what we do. And our goal now is really just to keep our buyers feeling comfortable, keep their attention, and hopefully keep their attention long enough to keep plugging forward and finding something that they do want to perform on. Because in our industry, it's prudent to strike while the iron's hot. People's lives change a lot in small amounts of time, and hopefully, they'll remain buyers for us.
Let's turn to some good news. The deals we're keeping together. We've got some smooth sailing. We've got a primary home buyer and someone that is buying here contingent upon the sale of his duplex in Portland, which we have an awesome agent that we connected him with in Portland who has got his duplex listed yesterday after the snowpocalypse in Portland put a slight delay on things. So you want to talk about these ones and where we're at?
Yeah, for sure. We've got one, our primaries are just smooth sailing. They actually met with the sellers in person yesterday, which doesn't happen very often, and got some really positive feedback on all fronts from that, just how kind they are. Of course, the sellers showing them personally around their home on how to use it, and whom better to do that from than the people who have built and put love and care into their home. And then they're buying some of their personal property outside of escrow. And so we're working on putting together some numbers and contracts for that. Also, the 1031 exchange client, super cool. That was the person that we basically got a phone call from and got them under contract on a place within 18 hours. These are some of the people that we love to work with. Just again, the people that call you, are ready to take action, and put their complete faith and trust in you to do your job, and really just need to know the bullet points. So that's how this one is going. We had their home inspection last week during some pretty serious snow weather. We can talk about that a little bit later because, again, there's never a dull moment in the home inspection world. But all in all, those are going swimmingly. And as long as we can, at least with the 1031 exchange, stick to all of our contingency deadlines, I think that one should go pretty well as well. In other news, we've got some first-time home buyers that are the sweetest, the cutest. I have so much fun when I see them. I see them and I have this giant smile on my face, but I'm turning that smile upside down to a frown right now with them. I talked to them after a showing I had with them this weekend, and their words were, Sarah, I thought the conversation was about to go really positive. They were like, Sarah, listen, this place we saw this weekend with you was probably the nicest, the best deal. I was like, oh, this is going well, good. They're like, but we're still not excited about it. And it's still pushing us past our comfort level in terms of what we're willing to put into a monthly payment. And we're really reconsidering renting for another year because we will be in a better financial position next year. And we can rent the same place that we're looking at buying right now for $1,000 less per month. And it's a hard thing to argue with. I think the little bit of feedback that I haven't given them yet that I will connect with their lender about is really just making sure they're fully aware of what's known as the cost of waiting in this industry and the cost of waiting in terms of buying a home, just comparing when interest rates are high and prices seem to be a little bit flat and there's less competition to potentially waiting and trying to wait until interest rates come down and maybe your income comes up a little bit and you can afford more. But what is the discrepancy there? What did you just waste in that year of time in terms of building equity, in terms of capturing a time in the market where you don't have to be competitive or potentially overpay? I think these are smart people. I think they're analyzing all of their options and their positions, but they have a tight budget. And I will say that the bed market is still pretty discouraging to people who need to spend between $400,000 and $475,000 and want a single family home or a stick built something townhome. And I still struggle with advising first-time homebuyers, primary home residents to look closely at condos because I think they're a riskier investment for this type of client, typically due to the large HOA fees and how hard they can be to sell on the back end. And just like they don't appreciate as quickly. So lots of decisions going on for those folks, and I'm feeling it for them and just doing our best to help guide them through making these really hard decisions. And again, for them, I think going from this really high, excited, we are in the position to buy a home to, ooh, shoot, this is our reality and what we're getting for our money here. So that's my experience with them this week.
Yes, move on to
yeah.
one that's interesting. We posted about a dome property on our top picks on social a couple weeks ago, and one of our members reached out to us and was like, hey, would the seller consider financing it? And while the listing didn't say that they would, it never hurts to ask. So ask the agent, and she said, let's see what your buyer's willing to do, and I'll put it in front of my seller. And that definitely helps on vacant properties, or this was previously a tenant occupied property that's now vacant. So when you see something vacant, that means no one's getting any passive income on that property. The seller may be more open to creative financing. So found out that the seller was open to it, and our buyer submitted an LOI. For those of you who don't know what an LOI is, it's a letter of intent. And essentially what that is, it's the step before an official offer to gauge in writing how open a seller or party would be to whatever you're proposing. And it's a great way to just summarize your points in something that is much more succinct than a 20-page offer. And it outlines very clearly what the terms could be and how it benefits everybody in the transaction. So the seller said, "This looks interesting. Why don't you put together an offer?" So our buyer came out, looked at it. We also were the recipients of a former buyer's inspection report, which we are always grateful for. It saved our buyer $650, and took a look at it in person, which we thought was really important, especially because it had been tenant occupied and there was some obvious deferred maintenance just from photos and also from looking at the inspection report. So this particular buyer decided that it was too big of a project for them. However, I would say at this point, like, getting a sub 2 deal in Central Oregon is extremely rare. Having a seller even be open to it is super rare. And I think that the numbers are 315,000 at approximately 3%, plus another maybe 350 seller financed with a tiny down payment, enough to just pay both agents, is a screaming deal, especially because this property is very unique, would make an amazing short-term rental because of its uniqueness. And not only do you have the dome house, but you have a detached ADU. So you have opportunity for house hacking, short-term rental, like so many things on this property. So you got to be ready for it. And I think this may be his first transaction, and good for him for trying, right? I think for some of our buyers out there who have a little bit more experience, have the contacts that they need and the relationships they need, or lean on us for those things, this could be a really fun project with great numbers.
I agree. And even beyond what you just said in terms of exit strategies and value out on this property, it's 2.5 acres between Bend and Sisters. Honestly, the land value itself, I think it's pretty good. There's that. It's got two really nice, newer, full-size shipping containers on it that I could see honestly turning into additional living units, making a couple short-term rental shipping container units that maybe you just use seasonally, or you fill one of them with toys to entice people to come play in the winter. There's a couple snow machines, something like that. And beyond that, there's at least 4 to 5 RV hookups with power, water, and there's even, I think, even like a little septic area out there as well, at least where the 4 are. So there's so many different little pieces to this place. And yeah, is it a 1980s geodesic dome like a good investment in general? Probably not as a structure, but what I see is sink a little bit of money in these places, make them work for you for a while, and then level that geodesic dome one day and build a quality home between Bend and Sisters and sell it for a couple $1,000,000. That's what I see happening on this property. So you're right. I'll talk a little bit more just about this client a little bit later in terms of it being more than he can deal with. But I do think it could be potentially the right deal for one of our clients out there that are listening and that we need to put right in front of them. So yeah, there's that creative financing. We've got a couple other creative financing things in the works right now. We're waiting on another client who hired us specifically just to be their buyer's agents. And so I don't know if you guys know, out there these days, we're working with buyer's representation agreements. Most often that happens when we engage with a client who is doing a conventional sale from an on-market property. And typically in our industry, sellers pay our commissions. This buyer's representation agreement outlines how we get paid, and then we write our commissions into offers as seller credits. But this particular buyer came to us and said, "Hey, Suzanne and Sarah, I have an off-market property that I've already found, that I've connected with the seller on. And I want you guys to guide and lead me in this creative finance transaction, and I will pay for you and your commissions to be my agents and have my guidance here." So we've got another buyer that's just waiting in the wings in order to put some contracts together with a seller, and us just have his representation and guidance as his buyer's agent doing seller carry financing. And then we're also prepping a listing. We've got a short-term rental condo coming on the market in the next couple of weeks that the sellers are open to doing seller carry financing on very reasonable terms. So we're excited to bring that to you here shortly and give you more details on that.
And in fact, they want to be the bank. That's the whole deal. They are using seller financing as a specific strategy for them financially to meet some goals that they have in the upcoming years. So excited to put that out there and be able to share their very fair seller financing terms with buyers straight from the get-go. So let's turn to the topic of the week, which is buyer's remorse, market hesitation, and when to trust your gut. Why do buyers get cold feet? There's a lot of reasons that they do. It can be the news, it can be being a first time home buyer and feeling a little out of your comfort zone. And a lot of times, where this ends up happening is during the inspection report when folks are seeing pages upon pages of things that are wrong with the house without understanding that you can ask to have all those things fixed, or just ask for a credit and you can decide what you want to fix and what you don't want to fix. What other reasons can you think of, Sarah, why buyers get cold feet?
I honestly think it's just something that naturally happens to almost everybody. And I think the idea is that we just need to prepare our buyers for it even before it happens. We have examples that happen even with just our primary home buyers who are buying into like newer, nicer homes. Once you're under contract, homes just look different. Like when you go and visit them for the second time or third time during the home inspection, like viewing a home through the lens of, hey, I'm about to buy this and this is about to be mine versus just walking into somebody else's home that you're considering. It's just a different lens and a different feeling. So I think acknowledging that this is going to be a feeling, right? At some point during this transaction, whether it's right after you get under contract and you're like, oh shit, I just bought a house or I'm about to buy a house, or whether it's I wasn't expecting or need to look closer at what came through in my home inspection, just that it's part of the process and it doesn't mean that you're making a bad decision. I think it's just one of those times in your life where you just really do have to analyze, hey, is this gut feeling something because I truly need to walk away, or is this gut feeling because I'm just doing something big in my life, right? And I need to push through it. So I think there's a big difference between those two feelings and just being prepared for them.
Agreed. And for us as agents, preparing our buyers to have those feelings so it doesn't come unexpected and feel bigger than it really is. You know how, like, when you wake up in the middle of the night and you start thinking about things and everything seems like the world is ending, and then you wake up and have your coffee and you're like, it's not that big of a deal. It's like that. You got to avoid that wake up in the middle of the night scenario, especially with these cold feet feelings, because that's when it can feel really big and scary.
For sure. Yeah. And the deal is if you're not buying a new construction home, it's going to have problems. There's a difference between buying a resale home and a new construction home, and just thinking that through, that these are not brand new homes.
And brand new homes have inspection reports that come back with tons of repairs. So
Yeah.
they are not immune to defects as well.
Yep. So, more of the story is there's never a dull moment in real estate. And this is why Suzanne and I have the privilege to bring you a weekly podcast that's so interesting. Is there's always something to share. This week it was more home inspection surprises. We had a home inspection this week on a duplex in some deep snow, tenant occupied. And what happens here is people know each other. We can laugh about it together. For example, this time our home inspector couldn't get into a crawl space because the crawl space access was frozen shut to the ground in the snow. So he was like, I'm not an excavator, I'm a home inspector. I'm going to have to come back for this. And at the same home inspection, there was a tenant who had a Doberman pinscher in her unit. And this Doberman pinscher was a very protective dog. So she, for the home inspection, had to come home, remove her dog, and let the home inspector do his thing. But what ended up happening is she put the dog back in the house before the home inspector was finished. The property manager and the seller's agent and the tenant all had to come back and coordinate this dog so our home inspector didn't get attacked. And with this, I'm getting phone calls and we're just communicating with each other. Hey, we're a team here. We need boots on the ground to help with these issues. And we just laugh about it. We just keep on moving forward and everybody gets their job done. So that's our industry PSA for the week. And client PSA, it's go with your gut, but understand that buyer's remorse is real. We want to expect it, prepare for it, but let's not let it control us or take us by surprise, and learn how to move through hard things when it's necessary, and or cut your losses when that's necessary too.
Moving on to highs and lows of the week. For me, my high was getting my Baja office space set up, getting the internet set up, making sure I have power and water. Like, really, it's back to basics here.
Very old country stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Just making sure I've got a place to work that is not loud, that has a comfortable seat, those types of things. And I also did find that co-working space here in Baja with some opportunities to connect with other local entrepreneurs, which I'm excited about. And we also had a new client find us on social media. And we did an intake call with her yesterday, and she's looking to buy not only her primary residence, but also an investment property with us here in Bend. So we love our twofers.
Mm-hmm. My win of the week is today I put on yoga pants instead of sweatpants, right? That's my win of the week. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm feeling grateful that I am almost totally caught up on my 2024 taxes and accounting. I've been feeling pretty overwhelmed by the hot mess that is, with having several businesses and tons of accounts and lots of properties to track. And I have a tendency to overcomplicate things. And I've really figured out how to simplify and refine these spreadsheets. And I've learned to employ the sum if equation. If anybody else wants to get down on this, it's a really cool equation. Please, send me a message. I'll do a little personal meeting for you or send you a video on how to use it. That's huge. And my next big goal is, once I've tallied everything for 2024, I am going to monthly or quarterly for sure be keeping up on all this stuff. So I am never in this situation ever again, because I'm just over it. But I'm feeling more put together. And, when we have a grasp and a handle on our finances and our income and expense monitoring, at least in my world, things feel a lot brighter.
I can relate. And our challenge of the week: losing a deal is always a bummer, no matter how many times we go through it. And not only because of the work we put into it, but just because of knowing what our clients are looking for, finding it, and then just seeing things start to disintegrate is hard for everybody. And I bet there's a lot of folks out there that are surprised to hear that it stings for us too, beyond just the income piece. But it does. However, we are not quitters, and we always get back on the horse, and we're already sending some new ideas and properties to these buyers at the right time. Like, I was ready actually to send them a new one yesterday, but I thought I would give them another couple days to let things simmer. But I certainly had one earmarked when I was writing the top picks email for this last week that I think could be a great option for them. So yeah, just finding the right time to do that so that they're not like, wait, we're still mourning the loss of.
And you're so good about picking timing on stuff like that. So I appreciate that conscientiousness. Just building on that really quick, for me, I think also for us, knowing for ourselves when to cut our losses. And I'm just not sure that's part of what I do, though, because for me, like you just said, we're not quitters. So while I know it's still costing us more time, more energy, more investment of emotion going into these transactions, while we try and continue to help our clients problem solve and get them exactly what they want, with this idea that this might not all work out in the end, it's like, at some point, sometimes I stop and ask myself, do I want to gauge the amount of energy I'm putting into this? Do I want to limit it? But that's just not me. Like, I'm an all-in kind of person until it's a no, until it's all done. And so I think yeah, for our clients, it's hard to lose a deal. And I think for us, it's still hard to lose a deal for that reason. But I think just having the conscientiousness that we don't give up, that we win some and we lose some, and there's always more to be had, is how I pull myself out of that hole, right? So there's that. But there are also things that we're grateful for this week. And given even that this was a little bit harder, more off week here, the weather in Bend has been funky. I hit myself in the face last week. I'm still healing from. I've got a kid who had food poisoning for 48 hours. Just remembering how lucky we are to have a career that we can be here, be there, be at home for our family when it really matters most. In this case, this week, it was a lot of hair holding and a lot of extra laundry, a lot of just serving and just sitting with my daughter. But just being able to walk back and forth to the office and work in between is a unique situation. Not a lot of people can do their work from anywhere. And even when it's a little yucky and not super streamlined or efficient, still grateful for it. That's my grateful moment for the week.
And I'll just tell a quick story about gratitude. Obviously, working from Baja, I am incredibly grateful for the partnership that we have that allows me to do this, because this is so important to me to have this freedom. This is what I invest in real estate for. This is what I want to bring to other people that we help and buy investment properties to live out however they want. And so Sarah and I really help each other to experience that freedom in whatever way that looks for each of us. And it's different, right? Like I want to be traveling and in working out of a camper, and like Sarah probably would rather be on a beach somewhere. Like hopefully Sarah's not that great at totally disconnecting yet, but she can do it on vacation for sure. I'm just really grateful for that. And what I want to say too is about being in a different place, I meet new people. And last year I met a gal on the pickleball court. She spoke German, I spoke German. We connected on that, connected on Facebook. And it's a year later. I saw her on the pickleball court yesterday, and she came up and gave me this big hug and was like, Suzanne, I'm so excited to see you. I love following you on Facebook, and all your posts are so amazing. And my house is in Hood River, Oregon, but when I'm ready to sell, you are going to be my realtor. And it was just so heartwarming to hear that from someone that I've really like only met a couple times, but she feels like she knows me despite the fact that I never post anything personal. Really, I'm getting better at that.
So
We're
much
both
better.
thank you. So that was just this, it just reinforces like, why do I choose to be in a different place? I'm making connections with someone I never would have otherwise met because she lives 3 hours away from Central Oregon. And now I have someone that's, yes, help me sell my house in Hood River when I'm ready. So that was a great little experience to have the last week, and just validates why I do what I do, even when it seems a little crazy.
Yeah, the world is a small place. And I think for you, Suzanne, it gives you such a diverse set of experiences and topics to be able to connect with people on, no matter where you are. And for me, it's the level of people I want to be connecting with. I want to have this connection where we can relate to people who are world travelers, who spend months at their second homes in Europe or Baja or whatever. And because you've built this into your life, we are able to connect and resonate with those people. And we live in a second home type place as well here in Central Oregon. And like you said, hopefully they'll feel us enough to know and trust us when it comes time to consulting on anything when it comes to real estate, and they'll think of us first. So that's definitely a huge moment of gratitude and validation for doing what we're doing. So thank you for sharing that. All right, funny real estate moment of the week. Listen, just so you guys know, I'm not going to say anything on this podcast or publish anything on this podcast that I wouldn't say directly to somebody's face. Just a little public service announcement there. I still fully intend to say this to this person in some follow-up, but they are originally from St. Louis, Missouri. These folks that we showed this subject to deal between sisters in Bend, and they told me they were interested in purchasing my fourplexes out there. I'm considering selling these. But I have to laugh, I have to giggle when somebody says to me that this particular cute short-term rental type multiple exit strategy deal here in Bend with very low down, subject to, is too much for them to bite off, but they would still like to invest in multifamily long-term rentals in St. Louis. Entirely different game. If little Bend and rentals here is too much for you to bite off, then I have something to teach you about what it takes to be an investor in St. Louis, Missouri, and we'll have that conversation on the side. But basically, long story short, I'm not so sure he's my buyer for my multifamilies in St. Louis. Oh boy.
That's hilarious. Yep. And maybe it comes down to purchase price, Sarah. That's the one thing that just stands out to me is like buying something that starts with a 2 versus a 6 or a 7. It might just be more of a mental block than anything else. Like I bet the numbers on the geodesic dome house have the potential to be better, but it comes with a lower price tag.
Yeah.
That's
Yep.
my guess.
I'll check in on that. Thank you for bringing that up. I'll ask him if that's the real reason. All good. Anyways, got to have some thick skin to invest out of state. So, tough lessons this week when deals fall apart. There are reasons out of our control, and it's a reminder about managing emotions. And it's really about numbers for us at the end of the day. Speaking to on investing out of state, while we're on that topic, I will say one of my personal investment and portfolio wins of the week was I have successfully hired a part-time property manager, and I've paid them for their first month. And I'm calling it successful now because they've been working with me for over a month now. I got their first invoice because I didn't really know how it was all going to look and break down. And I found someone who is honest and who rounds their numbers the next quarter or half hour, who shows up when they say they're going to show up. And so investing out of state and not having your own boots on the ground there is a challenge, but obviously finding the right people to work with is the win there. And given that we tend to manage our own properties and like to have a lot of say, I don't work that well with conventional property managers because we like to have a little bit more control. So I think finding the right people, having the right conversations, coming up with the right deals in terms of just what management looks like when you are using a property manager can take a lot of stress off, but also it's harder to find someone to fit the model and the mold that we're looking for. So feeling good about that.
I love it. My update this week for my own portfolio is I have a gal in my mastermind who is teaching DIY STR owners how to optimize their short-term rentals. And I was on a call with her about crafting her offer. And I was sitting there listening to her and I was like, I need her help. Because right now, what happened is I got basically 3 4-star reviews for my short-term rental. And for me, 4-star is like getting a D, but I know it's not. But I made a bigger deal out of it than maybe I should have. And on one hand, started pursuing a, who knows, $100,000 remodel to make this house make me more money. But is it going to be worth it? I don't know. Am I going to do it? I don't know. We'll see. But I'm paying at least for some drawings and to see what this place could be. Listening to this gal, really all I need to do, at least to see what my potential is here, is to change some things in my description, my communication cadence with my guests, photos. She gave me a whole list and it was super helpful. And I told her my goals and she was like, yeah, I think you might just try this before you spend $100,000 on a remodel. And who doesn't love someone that's going to tell you that? That's amazing. Maybe I still do want to spend $100,000 on this remodel, but maybe I don't have to. And newsflash, she's going to be a speaker for us at our August meetup. Because I think all of you are going to benefit from her amazing knowledge and experience doing this. So stay tuned for the meeting for that.
Overall, this week has been about getting our systems in place so that investing stays sustainable and doesn't become a time drain for us, i.e., are spending hours and hours reworking expense and income spreadsheets for taxes. So the more we streamline these things, we can focus on growing our portfolio instead of getting lost in the day-to-day stuff, or alternatively, when the day-to-day stuff happens, then you don't have to focus on all the draining stuff too.
Yes. Takeaways and final thoughts. First off, finish the last 5%. It's the hardest. I'm learning that with my STR description. Didn't know what I needed, but now I do. The other thing is buyer's remorse is real. So as a buyer, expect it, have a plan for it. As an agent, prepare your buyers to experience that so they don't have the dark soul of the night. Is that what that's called? The night scaries about things. And also, having market hesitation is natural, especially when we're still faced with high prices and relatively high interest rates. But don't let ungrounded fear keep you on the sidelines if the numbers work. Always go to your numbers, and your numbers should give you that sense of calm and knowing that it's a deal worth pursuing or not. And real estate is emotional for all of us. Even as your agents, we get emotional about deals. But every deal, even the ones that fall apart, teach us something, which is what we shared with you on today's podcast. So we hope you got a lot of value out of today's show. Please subscribe and leave us a review. Tell us what you want to hear more and less of. And if you want to reach us directly, you can always DM us on Instagram at Best Life Bend or Suzanne Rosemore with your real estate questions, whether you're a buyer, seller, or a real estate agent or aspiring in any of those areas. If you're ready to invest, book a consultation with us. We would love to meet you, and the link is in the show notes. We will see you next time. Thanks for tuning in, and you'll get more behind the scenes real estate investing stories from us on the Suzanne and Sarah Real Estate Investing Podcast. Thank you.
See you next time, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the Suzanne and Sarah Real Estate Investing Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, then subscribe and leave us a review because your feedback helps us reach people like you who are ready to elevate their lives. Don't forget to share this episode with someone who's passionate about real estate or personal growth. And for more tips, resources, and updates, follow us on Insta or visit us at CentralOregonInvestorNetwork.com. And remember, you have the power to design the life you want, one real estate investment at a time. See you next week.